Yo, it's just John. Draft cram season, right? It's Friday, March 13th. Trying to jam some last second content out on you. I feel like it wasn't all organized as well. Organization's not a strong point of mine. I feel I have no like hesitations or doubts or regrets about the amount and quality of content we did for draft season this year. I mean, I started months ago and we covered everybody. We covered everything. We did everything that was on the list of things we needed to do. But just like last second, stuff you read 2 months ago, probably don't remember. Stuff I wrote 2 months ago, probably don't remember either. Even the person writing it kind of doesn't always remember it. So we're going to do some last second cramming. I think most drafts will be on the 20th, 21st, 22nd, that like next weekend, right before opening day, which is in 2 weeks, which is in 13 days now. Very, very exciting. Actually 12 days, because there's that one island game on the Wednesday. Very exciting. But we're going to do today, just to get you ready, the most important position, you could argue, starting pitching. So we could go, I don't think we'll go through all the positions in this format. Maybe I'll throw some notes into like a post, something next week or this weekend. But we're going to do a little bit of an extensive podcast today looking at starting pitcher, because, starting pitcher is one position, but it is basically half. It's not quite half, but basically, right? The relievers factor in. But you want to get your starting pitching staff right. There's a lot. I think you could argue that I don't think it is. It's easier to build an offense during the season, waivers, trades, and stuff like that than like a pitching staff. Like if you start with a total crap pitching staff, you're pretty much toast. It's hard to fix that. Well, there'll be some pop-ups and some breakouts early on in the season. We'll try to get our hands on those, but starting pitching is the most fun as well to talk about, the most, so we're going to talk about that today. And we're going to try to do well. So the key here is this will be like we're going to take away my own personal thoughts, not my thoughts, because how can you talk for this long without giving your own thoughts? It'll be my own thoughts, but we will start with ADP and auction value data from NFBC. And this is just kind of like, I've said this before, why listen to one dude, me, with the issues I have, right? When you can look at the results of hundreds of different people that are putting in significant money into it. Like, I think you could do just fine, if not better, just by drafting your starting pitchers based on what these higher stakes people have done. And because it's not one guy, right? It's wisdom of the crowd, wisdom of the hundreds of drafts that have been done with entry fees of minimum $50, but most of these are big time. And we'll have some main event ADP in here as well. And that's actually what we are, not exactly what we're looking at here, but these will be March draft results and auction results. So the online auction championship on NFBC is, I think those are at least like $100 entries. So people aren't, they're not auto drafting these. Usually they're not just like, they're not mailing it in like a lot of other fantasy leagues. You'll see, you see these Yahoo and ESPN ranks and ADP and stuff. And it's just like, okay, a lot of these leagues are just total dead. So that's not the case here. So it's really good data to use to catapult off of. And we're going to go through, this might turn into a two-parter depending on how long this goes, but we're going to go through the top 100 or so starting pitchers. And I'm just going to go through and tell you like what, the top guys. This is all available on the NFBC ADP dashboard, free for all. So go to you can let me know if you don't have that link. I'll put it in, I guess it's not easily accessible to non-paid subscribers, but just reach out to me if you want the link, or I'll tweet it out or something. But we'll go through these clumps and just talk about guys one more time. And we won't be saying much new, but we'll talk about some draft strategy at starting pitcher using the high stakes data. So of course, number one on the screen, if you're going to watch this, it might be a little bit easier for you to keep track and to keep tabs if you're looking at, because we got 15 names on the screen here, but I will, as always, try to talk through it for the people that are not watching, which is probably most, I would say. Probably most people are, the majority probably are listening and not watching. Ohtani at 1, of course, that doesn't count, right? You really don't need to, if you're in a Yahoo league and you have the 2 separate Ohtanis, or even if you're in a Fantrax league where that's the question, that's a setting you can set. You can check my ranks I ranked Ohtani as a pitcher and a hitter separately. Obviously, a lot of people have done that. So just go to any person you trust starting pitcher rankings and see where he lines up. It's about like mid 20s, I think, for me. But he's number one in ADP, obviously, because in this league, he's both players in one. So total smash number one pick, pretty obviously there. Screwball, Skeens, Crochet. We've talked enough about these three guys. Has anything changed this spring? No, it's just like whatever. You can order those three guys however you want. Screwball's gone for $41, Skeens $39, Crochet's $38. So Screwball a couple bucks ahead of the two, and then Skeens just a touch ahead of Crochet. Not real sure what that's all about. Again, like I can't really distinguish between the two. If you want to trust some of this injury stuff we've talked about, who's throwing closest to their max and stuff. And I mean, Skeens, if I had to pick one, like trying to guess who is likeliest to get hurt here, it's probably Skeens, but no real reason to draft based on that. Like it's a coin flip. A lot of this stuff in fantasy sports and in gambling per se, these kinds of prediction games, it's like, don't get hung up on these tiebreakers, man. Just like flip a coin or roll a dice or whatever you have to do. If you can't decide, seriously, find a dice, roll it. If it's 1 or 2, Screwball, 3 or 4, Skeens, 4, 5 or 6, Crochet, like you might as well just don't waste a ton of energy on it. And it's perfectly fine at this point to like, I don't know, like if you're a Red Sox fan, go ahead, take Crochet. Like it's not a worse pick than Skeens or Screwball. So that's a top 3. I do think I'll interject some like general draft thoughts, hopefully, that will be helpful to you. I do think it's typically I will stay away from drafting a pitcher, but I'm in a DC now. Kind of one of my last drafts. And I went with Crochet in the first round. So it's a little bit more risk, of course. Like I took Crochet over Carroll and Tatis and J-Rod. Is Crochet way more likely to be out for the year than those 3 guys? Yes, of course. But I just think these 3 separate so much from the rest of the field that if you're in a 12-team, 15-team league, in a 15-team league, only 1/5 of the league is going to have one of these top 3 guys. And that separates you a bit if it works out, if they don't get hurt. And that's how it happened last year. Is it possible that the top 3 pitchers 2 years in a row don't get hurt at all? Like, we'll see, I guess. But I think it's fine. I still think it's probably optimal to not use the first round pick on a pitcher just because of the extra risk. But that's a top 3. We've talked a lot about that. This next kind of tier would be Sanchez, Yamamoto. I'm kind of tiering these as I just kind of on the fly. We'll look at the auction values and tier them based on that. It's all pretty close, honestly. I guess you could separate off Sanchez and Yamamoto and Brian Wu. They're all $28, $26, and $26. So they're all between 28 and 26. But again, very auction value wise, they're $10 less than that first cliff, or that first tier. So that's what I'm talking about. Screwball, Skeens, Crochet, just like in a different universe. $10 is a massive difference in an auction draft. So Sanchez 28, Yamamoto 26, Wu 26. You could argue that all of them. We should throw Gilbert and Hunter Brown in there as well at $25, and we should throw Chris Sale in there as well at $25. So this next kind of clump: Sanchez, Yamamoto, Wu, Gilbert, Brown, Sale. I think in the case of Sanchez, Yamamoto, Wu, you are really buying high. Like I think you got the ceiling. I think in every case you're probably looking at the ceiling. I suppose you could argue with Brian Wu that it wasn't quite, that he's still young and developing and made a big gain last year. So why couldn't he take another step forward? But there's not a ton of profit potential at these prices, and the ADP wise, you're talking about a 3rd or 4th round pick. And that's probably right in all leagues, not even, your home leagues are often different than NFBC, but probably not starting pitching wise. So a 3rd round pick on Yamamoto, sometimes a 2nd round pick on Sanchez, Yamamoto, Wu. I mean, Sanchez is even moving up a little bit as we go. So 2nd or 3rd round pick, I don't know there. Like there's this kind of question of, you want profit at every pick, of course, but also you're going to need 6 starting pitchers at least on your fantasy team. And sometimes safety is just like, you just need the innings, right? You want to play into some safety. So I think those are okay, fine. Like overall in a vacuum, I would prefer to get Screwball, Skeens, Crochet in the 1st or 2nd round, and then wait a while and try to get some of these mid-round, late-round values rather than dive in here where you're kind of buying high. But I'm not going to be like scoffing at the person that takes Hunter Brown in the 3rd or 4th round. Like it's not going to be me, especially in the case of Hunter Brown, but it's perfectly fine. You really, at the end of the day, kind of the most important thing with starting pitching early in the draft is to find the good ratios with good volume. all those guys can do that for you. Chris Sale is a guy that I think may fall, especially in home leagues. People are a little bit afraid of the injuries and stuff. I've never been a big Chris Sale guy, but I think it's perfectly fine as a 5th round pick this year if he falls that late. ADP is 39, so that's like a 4th rounder in a 12-team league hypothetical. But in a 10-team league, 12-team league where people are a little bit more cautious, like, can you get Sale in the 5th round? I think so. And that's not, honestly, if you want to just kind of somewhat quote unquote punt starting pitching, take Sale as your ace in the 5th round. You'll have a really good offense to start. And Sale could definitely beat, now he could outdo Skeens over the full season, right? Why not? Like, his numbers have always been totally elite. It's just a matter of staying healthy, staying on the field. And maybe he can't do that. He's probably not going to throw 190 innings, 200. Me and Tim talked about this. Like, he can throw 200 innings. The Braves would let him. It's just that the body has, he hasn't done that. But with an example of, like Yamamoto is a good example. Like, he's probably capped at 175 innings or something, right? Like, I don't think they're going to let him rip off 200. Now, if everything's going right for Sale and he's holding up, I think they would let him, because why not? He's 37. What are they? They're not really thinking much about, not much, very far down the line with Sale. Raggins, Fried, DeGrom, Peralta, and Webb. There might be more in this tier, I guess, in the next screenshot, but we'll talk about these guys next. So this would be starting pitchers 11 through 15 or 10 through 14 if you don't count Ohtani. But so keep that in mind. Every number I say, you actually have to kind of subtract 1, because Ohtani's not really above these guys as just a pitcher. Raggins, I think the numbers will be elite. The ratios will be elite. The strikeout will be elite. I just worry about the injuries. He's just had a lot of injuries. He's had like 1 season of a clean bill of health, and last year ended with a kind of a scary injury. So I'm a little bit hesitant on that. But is there at least is there like a 50-50 shot that he just stays healthy, makes 32 starts, and is an SP1 by far? Like, that's definitely, maybe, is it 50-50? I don't know. Is it 40-60? It's not lower than like a 1/3 chance. So I think it's fine. 5th, 6th round pick with 1st round value upside, at least. Like, he could definitely return that. So if you want to play a little bit more risky with more upside, Raggins is the guy for you. Fried's here, total opposite, not really going to ever return SP1 upside, just not a huge strikeout rate. He could get there, I guess, if it's a massive injury year for these top starting pitchers. If half of these guys are on the IL and Fried stays healthy, then the volume will get him there. But just more of a safe guy. DeGrom, I can say that 5th round DeGrom is a decent way to start. He had the 170 innings last year, so no current problems. I mean, hasn't had an injury in quite a while now, so if you feel good about that, he's another guy that could definitely pitch like the SP1 overall. It's Jacob DeGrom. Peralta and Webb, more like not as exciting. I know Peralta had the big year last year, just going to regress there. He's never been as good as he was last year, ERA, whip wise. So hasn't never been a great whip pitcher. So not my cup of tea, but again, like Webb and Peralta, pretty darn safe to give you a bunch of innings with a good ERA and a good whip. Not elite, I don't think, but you can always luck into an elite ERA. Like, that happens. And the strikeouts for Peralta are nice. He's always been 27-28% K rate. Webb got up to 26% last year, but smart money would be on him dropping down to 23%, but the volume kind of makes up for a lot of that. In a K/9 league or something, I just don't know. Like, Webb probably has to get downgraded because the strikeout rate has never been all that special. So top 15 here, this is basically the top 6 rounds or so. Like, if you're asking me my approach on these particular group of 15 pitchers, like, I'll go for Skubal, Skeens, Crochet sometimes. It's not a priority of mine. I'm not doing it more often than I'm not. I'm typically going hitter to start. And I kind of like, I don't know, like, there's just a lot of injury questions, a lot of buy highs here. It seems to make sense to me to embrace some of that. Sailor DeGrom as your SP1 in the 5th or 6th round. If one of them falls, maybe you have to go into the 4th round to make sure you get him or something like that. Like, that's certainly a potential 1st round value without that price. So I would say that's kind of an approach I would not mind. George Kirby next. We'll say next clump here. Kirby, Luzardo, Cease, Bradish, Joe Ryan. They're all at $21.20 or $19. Yuri Perez, we'll throw him in there too. So Kirby, Luzardo, Cease, Bradish, Ryan, Yuri. Next clump. A lot of upside here. Kirby, Luzardo, Cease, Bradish, Ryan, Yuri. I don't know if Ryan can be an SP1 upside. The ERA is just never that good, and the team context is bad. High fly ball, high home run, and a good strikeout rate, not elite. Like, he doesn't have the elite strikeout upside of a Bradish or a Perez. or even Luzardo maybe. Just less certain here with Kirby. You have a little bit of injury concern, a little bit of the fact that he wasn't that good last year, George Kirby. I think he bounces back. I think he was unlucky. I think a lot of good signs, more good signs than bad from last year with Kirby. So if you're getting him in the 6th or 7th round, it's another dude I'm really excited about. 5th or 6th round Kirby. If you like whip, if you like a lot of talent, and you can embrace a little bit of the injury risk. I mean, he hasn't had an injury in a year now, right? That happened last spring, and then he finished the year. But it was like what did we talk about? We talked about this the other day. Like it was a shoulder or something or other last year, which is always a little bit, makes you hesitate a little bit. But I like the value on Kirby. Luzardo, I think you're kind of getting this cheap price tag on Luzardo because of the history, which it's not a great history for him. But if you believe in team stuff, he's been on the Athletics, he's been on the Marlins, and just never could quite really get it together, Luzardo. But then the Phillies get their hands on him. He was a pretty sharp breakout pick last year going to that new team, and it worked out. I mean, that paid off in spades. Is that the term? Paid off in spades? I don't think so. No, nobody gets paid in shovels. Luzardo 2023, like a 3.58 ERA, a 28% K rate, a 7% walk rate. 2024, only 12 starts for Luzardo, a 5 ERA, a 21% K rate. So that was like, what's going on here? And then last year, 3.92 ERA because he got absolutely torched twice, and a 1.22 whip. So never has had in the last 3 years, his whip has been above 1.2. But the 3.92 ERA came with a 3.4 Sierra and a 20% K minus walk. So I don't know. Will those two horrible starts happen again this year? Like it does seem like he's a guy who can just kind of get shelled every once in a while, and you should not be trying to guess at that and figure out when that's going to happen and avoid it. But yeah, Luzardo has a ton of upside. I mean, 20% K minus walk with 183 innings last year. That tells you a lot with a good offense behind him. I think Luzardo's fine as well. I prefer Kirby, and I probably prefer some of the guys behind here like Yuri Perez, but I don't have any huge issue with that. Dylan Cease, Kyle Bradish. So you have ERA questions with Cease. I suppose we have to say that. His K minus walk for Dylan Cease last 3 years has been 17%, 21%, and 20% Cease. Awesome K minus walk, strikeout rate over 20, as low as 27% in the K rate for Cease. In the last 2 years, it's been 29% and 30%. Walk rate has always been around 10%. So the whip can be bad. Cease's whips last 5 years, 1.25 in 2021. And then as we get closer to present day, 1.11, so that was good. 1.42, that's horrible. 1.07 in 2024, and then 1.33. So it's just kind of going back and forth of really good or really bad. And I don't know, it's BABIP, it's bad luck. I don't know if he's just like, maybe he's a guy that tips pitches sometimes and just like doesn't have a big depth of arsenal. I don't know. So I understand people not wanting Cease in the 8th round. Like, I think it's fine. He's more of a guy that I take in a points league, or I take him in a categories league if he falls a little bit. But it could be an awesome year. I mean, all these guys could really be clear SP1s in fantasy leagues. Bradish, maybe you could argue that the volume probably won't put him into that discussion. But and I also still have questions about the fastball and how well that can go. And it was a 29% K minus walk last year for Bradish, a 2.53 ERA and a 103 whip. That was in just 32 innings. So what are you talking about? 130 innings, but 130 innings, if he gives you a mid-2s ERA and a whip close to 1, that would be perfectly fine. But with the downside, I think I'm kind of leaning more to be off of Bradish because the upside is capped by the innings limit. There's just no way he's not going to throw 150 more innings this year than last year, right? He's not going to go to 180 innings, probably 130. I guess maybe the Orioles' hand gets forced by them being a good team. And what are you going to do? You're going to not let your best pitcher pitch in August, September when you're in the playoff hunt? I don't think that could happen. It could also just be that they go 4 or 5 innings a start for a while at least, right? Like maybe there's a hard limit of 5 innings. They don't want them to come out for the 6th, and then a quality start league, like that hurts. So it's kind of it's a bit league specific with Bradish. I would just expect lower volume, and that might matter. And I don't think for sure, like the fastball is enough of a question mark for me that I'm just not banking a 32% K rate like he's shown the last 2 times we've seen him. Back to 2023, it was a long time ago, but Bradish had a 25% K rate. Still a really good ERA, 2.83, 1.04 whip, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem as safe as these other guys. The price has gotten kind of out of control. Not out of control, but it's just a little bit, it's a touch too high, right? Yuri Perez is a guy that I'm just probably my favorite price considered pitcher that we've talked about so far. I'm definitely targeting him. He's one of the main targets of mine. 95 innings last year, so you can pile onto that. You can add, why can't he add 50 to that, right? 140. I guess that puts us in the same exact problem we just talked about with Bradish. So fair enough. We're kind of saying the same things. I believe in his fastball and his stuff, and he's got this really deep mix of pitches, and they're all really good. Is it crazy to think he could add 70 innings, 160 innings as the Marlins' best pitcher? They could be another team that's kind of in the wild card race. Like, they made the playoffs 2 years ago for the same reasons that they might this year, like a really good pitching staff. So I guess the hard cap, we can't say that he's ready to throw 170 innings. So I can't really say all the negative things about Bradish and not apply them to Uri volume-wise, but I like Uri at a per inning level a little bit more, but it makes sense why those two are close. So maybe I just talked myself down on Uri a little bit different situations. If you're in like a weekly head-to-head league where the overall volume doesn't matter as much, like you get to replace him in your lineup, and if they're skipping a start or something like that, that's a little bit different. But yeah, at this point, I'd say right there, probably right after Cease. So the group we're talking about right now is Kirby, Luzardo, Cease, Bradish, Joe Ryan, Yuri Perez. I would say after Cease there kind of ends your like really good chance of being an SP1, or like legitimate chance of being an SP1, like a top 10 starting pitcher in fantasy. That probably ends around here. Not to say that somebody won't. Certainly multiple people that we talk about from here on probably will end up as top 10 SPs, but if we're just talking about like best chances, best odds, you kind of take a step down here. So that brings us to SP 22, 21 if you don't count Ohtani, Framber Valdez, and that brings us to another clump, I guess. The auction values is these guys are around $16, $17. Framber, McLean, Pivetta, Chase Burns, Emmett Sheehan, before a bit of a drop off there. So Framber, McLean, Pivetta, Burns, Sheehan. You have innings questions with Sheehan, Burns, McLean. Is that fair to say? I think McLean threw a whole season last year, so maybe he doesn't. Only 48 in the majors. But let me pull that up. McLean in the minors last year. Baseball Reference. Struggling. Baseball Reference, new design, the new design. He threw 2025 minor leagues 113, add that on to the 48, so he was at around 150. So no innings cap for him, you wouldn't think. 190 fully in sight, and a possibility for McLean to throw a bunch of innings. So the volume guys, you could say this is a volume tier, mini tier here: Valdez, McLean, Pivetta. You could definitely get 190 innings out of those three with really good stuff. Valdez, though, all of these guys is going to have an issue. So McLean, questionable strikeout rate, probably a mid-20 strikeout rate. Never been a great command guy. Haven't only seen him for 48 innings in the majors. Did he make a postseason start? He might have, so maybe a little bit more than that. But just an unproven guy with a sinker and a potentially bad whip. I really do think the whip could be kind of poor for McLean, so I'd be more off of him for that. I just don't think he has the same level of safety and ceiling as these guys, but a lot of people disagree with me on McLean. You don't have to listen to me. Valdez, history of whips, never been under 1-1. Framber Valdez, he's been at 125, 116, 113, 111, and 124 last 5 years. Last year was his bad year, 3.66 ERA. Sierra was 3.66, the same exact. So he's never been an elite ratios guy overall. He's had some elite ERAs, 3 of them, in fact. 2021, Framber had a 3.14 ERA. 2022, he had a 2.82 ERA. 2024, he had a 2.91, and he's never been above last year at 3.66 in his last 5 years at least. Walk rate's not great. Best he's ever done is league average, but he's done league average each of the last 4 years. K rate, also not great. Best he's ever done is 25%. So you're counting on the ground balls and the home run suppression with Framber Valdez, but he's proven that he can do that. His home run per 9 has been like 0.7 over the last 3 years, probably even a touch lower than that. His highest is 0.9 in 2023. Now he goes to Detroit, where it's even harder to give up home runs. So Framber, not going to be an ERA sparkler for you, but very safe. Innings is low in innings. His low in innings is 176 over these last 4 years. So he's been a workhorse. The Tigers like them, and it could be a very nice season for Framber, but just not like SP1 ever. He's never been a potential SP1 for you, except in points leagues. He can get there in points leagues, so boost him up there. Nick Pivetta, lucky last year, but sometimes we can like just downgrade guys too much because they were lucky a year ago. But look at these ERAs for Nick Pivetta. Last 5 years, 4.53, 4.46, 4.04, 4.14. Until last year in 2025, he goes to 2.87. Now there was this park change right there. So those 4 bad ERAs were in Boston. The home run rates in that time for Pivetta were 1.4, 1.4, 1.5, 1.7. Am I talking too fast? I don't know. You can leave your feedback if I'm doing things that aren't optimal, and I'll improve. We're still getting there as a podcast. So long story short, with Pivetta, he had these kind of poor ratios, good whips, I guess, last in 2023 to 2024, but never had an ERA below 4 from 2021 to 2024 with the Red Sox, and he had a home run problem, at least one around a home run and a half, 1.5 home run per 9 in that time. Then he goes to San Diego, a much better park. He goes for a 1.1 home run per 9. The ERA drops to 2.87 and a whip of 0.99 in 181 innings. So who's the true guy? It's probably a mid-3s ERA. He's probably not going to be as good at limiting home runs as he was last year, but it was a sensical park shift, right? Like it's a lot harder to give up home runs in Petco than in Fenway. So you have that working for you with Pivetta. Maybe should I share? I'll share the screen too to show you some of the numbers I'm looking at. You don't have to look at my face, but we'll keep talking. Yeah, so here's Pivetta's kind of numbers by year. Doesn't have a lot of advanced stuff here, but the question is just like, you're kind of buying him at a high price here. And with the home run, I think his home run per 9 will come up to 1.3. And you have this question of Pivetta went from a 29% K rate in 2024 to 26%, and 1 point was added on the walk rate. So it was like a 3-year low 19% K minus walk. That's still very good. But it's just, I don't know. I don't think you have that SP1 upside with Pivetta, maybe more of an SP2 or 3. Just don't think he can repeat last year, that 2.87 ERA. And he's one of the older guys. And I think it's reasonable to downgrade the older guys at least a little bit. Skill decline is more likely, but I suppose you could say like innings limit or less likely. You're not going to see an innings limit on Pivetta after 181 innings last year. So it's fine if he falls a little bit. He's a potentially an 8th round guy. That's pretty good. SP2, SP3 maybe. So I can't say anything too bad about him. Chase Burns, another guy. So that we've mentioned Burns and Sheehan in this larger tier, but we had 3 like safe volume guys, you could say, Valdez, McLean, Pivetta, and now we have innings caps probably here with Burns and Sheehan. Both very, very good per game. I mean, Burns' stuff is pretty much unmatched. There are guys that match it, right? But he has elite stuff. Chase Burns last year, a 36% K rate, 9% walk rate, just nasty stuff. Fastball slider. 43 innings, though, in the majors, more than that in the minors, but fair to think that he could be a bit capped innings-wise, probably not 180 innings, probably more like 150 you're hoping for. And it's just a question of, does he stay healthy? If he stays healthy, I think you're very happy with taking him here in this group. And if, obviously if he doesn't, then you're not. But it's a question for you, man. I can't make this decision for you. Pivetta at a 100 ADP, Chase Burns at a 100 ADP. It's just about, what do you think about the elbow strain last year? Was it fake? Because there's this story with Chase Burns that he was shut down last year on the IL with an elbow something or other. I didn't do my homework. And it looked bad. It was an elbow strain. But could it be that it was really, really minor and the Reds just used it as an excuse to take him out and limit the innings because they were building him up? Like, that is a perfectly reasonable explanation for that. And if you think that's what that is, then you shouldn't be that worried about the injury. You should be a little bit worried about any young pitcher that throws this hard and hasn't had any elbow reconstruction stuff. But way less worried than the people who think this reported grade 1 right flexor strain. So grade 1 is less concerning, right? And he came back. So I guess I can talk myself into it just because the upside is so great. It was a grade 1 right flexor strain for Burns, placed on IL on August 15th last year. If you think that was just a kind of a show to get him on the IL and save some innings, then fire away. But if you're a little bit more trying to avoid injury, I cannot really recommend you making Chase Burns your SP2 or SP3. Emmett Sheehan has had Tommy John. I do believe he came back last year from Tommy John, through 73 innings in the majors and more than that in the minors, probably 50 or 60 more. So he's probably around 160 cap innings. I don't know if he'll go higher than that. But the Dodgers, they got a lot of guys that have innings caps and injuries. I mean, Snell's on the IL. They're already having to go into Robleski or something as their SP5. Like, funny how things change so fast with the Dodgers, right? Before, at the beginning of this offseason or beginning of this season, before spring, you're like, well, Dodgers have 7 aces. Which one is they going to pick? And then it's like, well, Snell is not coming until probably late April, maybe even, early May. And then Roki Sasaki just looks like he's terrible. I don't know. Will he be in the rotation? Will he have to start at AAA? They said that he was going to be a starter, but they didn't say where, right? Like, maybe he's going to just have to go to AAA and figure out some of the stuff, because the spring has been pretty bad for him. Just doesn't seem to have command. The fastball's not fooling anybody with Roki Sasaki. So all of that, we're talking about, not talking about Sasaki, we're talking about Sheehan. So I don't have any doubts that Sheehan's in the rotation, but how many innings did they put on him after what we saw, after kind of still with that Tommy John in the somewhat recent history? Let me get you the total innings last year from AAA and the major leagues for Sheehan, just to kind of give you an idea of the potential ceiling with Sheehan innings. Yeah, okay, never mind. It was only 19 innings in the minors last year. So he was just getting back in the middle of the year and kind of went to the majors pretty quickly. So you're talking about fewer than 100 innings last year. Don't think the Dodgers pile on 75 to that, maybe 50. So every Dodger, you should be talking about 160 inning kind of cap. Maybe Yamamoto. I don't see why he couldn't go 180. They might just need him to. But the Dodgers are going to be careful. But Sheehan last year in the majors, 31% K rate, 8% walk rate, 23% K minus walk. Swinging strike rate, ball rate, everything was elite. So he looked really, really good. Next tier then, Gaussman, Strider, Wheeler, Lodolo, and maybe some more in this fair teardrop. But I have the screenshots I did are in groups of 15. So we'll talk about these guys first. Gaussman, sorry, I got a phone call there to decline. I might have to end this here and call this part 1. Kevin Gaussman, I'm fine. I don't know. Like, I don't really want to touch him because he's so inconsistent. He was really bad for the first couple months last year. And I'm not sure I want to buy this at 113, but he was very good in the second half. It was awesome in the playoffs. He can still pitch. Good fastball, good splitter. Just not really my cup of tea, but I think it's fine. Strider, I'm still staying away. I know the velo is coming back a little bit in spring as we go through it, but I'm not as – just let someone else do it. I don't know. If he doesn't have the fastball, which seems still somewhat likely, it seems like a 33% chance that his fastball is just not ever going to be what it used to be. And if he doesn't have it, there's nothing to fall back on. So it could be really, really ugly for Strider. I mean, he could – if there's one guy in these top 30 pitchers we're talking about that might just have like a 4.5 ERA and look terrible this year, it's Strider. Wheeler behind him, I'm out just because of the thoracic outlet syndrome thing. Maybe that's overly simplistic. The main event drafters don't hate him. They're taking him up here in the top 110, top 120. So there's some good feelings about him. Obviously, Wheeler probably would have won the Cy Young last year. It was him or Skeens until the August injury, until he went down. Maybe it was even in July. But let someone else do it. Can't advise that. Nick Lodolo, lots of hype on Lodolo, and I have a little bit of trouble debating, fighting back against it. I like him. Last year, a 3.33 ERA, a 1.08 whip, 24% K rate, 5% walk rate. So great walk rate. Always been not a, ground ball rate has come down. I think he's throwing more four-seamers than sinkers this year, but I don't know. I don't think the ceiling is great, but he could absolutely go 190 innings with good ratios. And he shouldn't have a huge home run issue like some other guys in Cincinnati might, because he's more of a ground ball guy. Great curveball, right? Like elite curveball, four-seam sinker, lots to like there. But I think the ceiling's a little bit capped. It's a little bit surprising to see him in the top 30, right? So I wouldn't reach for him, but if he falls to me, like, I feel fine about that. So next group of 15, Then we have Jay Miz for $9, Tyler Glasnow for $10, Ryan Pepio for $13. So Pepio's going for a lot more in the auctions than he is in the snake drafts. $13. He'd be much higher than this if I had sorted this data by average auction value rather than ADP. So, and you can kind of explain that. We'll make this clump. Let me say it again. There's another tier here. Mizurowski, Glasnow, Pepio, Cam Schlittler, Michael King, Brendan Woodruff, Sonny Gray, Drew Rasmussen, and Nathan Eovaldi. We'll call it there. So that's 9 guys or so. Mizurowski, fair innings questions, fair questions about if he's actually a legitimately consistent major league ace, because he was not last year, had some moments, but had some really bad starts. Minor league command was never there, was always kind of ugly. And I don't know, I just kind of want to buy in because the ceiling is SP1 type, like not volume wise, but Mizurowski could absolutely average like a ton of fantasy points per start. The fastball is just so insane that I like him. But again, if you're looking for 190 innings of surefire, like good ratios, you can't take Mizurowski. Glasnow probably, I don't know, do people don't seem to talk much about the fact that he had a 12% walk rate in 90 innings last year. Glasnow's walk rates last 4 years, 8, 8, 7, and then 12. So still a 29% K rate, but even that was down 3 points from the previous year. So he didn't pitch very well in addition to only throwing 90 innings. Seems like his 4-year ceiling has been 134 innings. Just gets hurt so much. I don't really see why you would bother with Glasnow at this point, unless you're just if you're in a 10-team league where you can change your lineup every day and the replacement value is super high, then take Glasnow and get what you get. Hope that he's an ace again, as like a stud ace again, like he was prior to last year. Hope you get that at a per game basis and just fill in when he's hurt. That makes some sense. But if you're looking for a full season guy, like I don't think Glasnow's going to do it very well for you. Pepio, maybe, the price is up there. A lot of the main event drafters, the big spenders, these main event drafts are like at least $1,700 entry. So these guys are obviously paying a lot of attention to stuff, and they like him a lot. Seems to have that kind of mix of safety and upside. His best strikeout rate of his career, Ryan Pepio, is 26%, and his walk rate last 2 years has been 9%. So it's like a 16, 17% K minus walk. Not anything special. He's not going to be a low 3s ERA guy. 1.3 home run per 9 given up the last 2 years. So even in Tropicana 2 years ago, it was 1.2. He's a fly ball guy with spotty command. Not a huge upside, but definitely will have a better season this year. And I think you can make a case that the floor is pretty great with him. So that's the case for him. Schlittler, I guess he shook off the back problems early in spring, and he's looking really good this spring again. Like huge fastball. Just like, I don't know about his secondaries, if they're good enough to maintain, to hold up that fastball. I'm not sure about the volume, and I'm not sure about the walk rate. Like it was a 10% walk rate last year. The ball rate was better than that, in fairness to him. So wide range of outcomes for Schlittler. Could definitely step up and be like an SP2, but you don't have to pay that cost for Schlittler. So it's okay if you're looking for more upside, but overall I would be kind of thumbs down on that. Michael King, again, like another guy with not the greatest strikeout rate in the world. It was 28% 2 years ago, and his breakout last year was 25%, but there were some injuries around there. Throws a lot of sinkers, does Michael King, and command has never been great. 8, 9% walk rates the last 2 years. But I feel pretty good about his run prevention. Probably be a really nice ERA for you while he's healthy, but how many innings can he throw after only 73 last year? Will some of those injury stuff come back? His whip, even as last 3 years, as he's been kind of a bulk guy, he's thrown he threw 104 innings in 2023, Michael King, 1.15 whip, pretty good. 2024, that best season, 30 starts, 1.19 whip. So nothing special. Like you'll take it if the volume's there, but it's not great whip for you. And then last year, 1.2. So you're not looking at a great whip, but you're looking at probably a really good ERA with King in that park, with the sinker, with the ground ball rates and stuff like that. Woodruff, I would just leave alone. Doesn't seem like he can possibly stay healthy. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Whatever. Sonny Gray, no idea. Could, never really had a fastball, but he makes it work. He's a strange guy. Sonny Gray continues to put up 20% K minus walks, 24% in 2024, 25%, 22% last year, Sonny Gray. So last year on Sonny Gray, 180 innings, 4.2 ERA, not great. 1.23 whip, 1.2 home run per 9. Park downgrade, I guess you could say, going from Busch to Fenway could give up some more home runs, could pop up to 1.3, 1.4 home run per 9 in Boston, and that would tank the ERA, which hasn't been good. It's got two pretty poor ERAs the last 2 years. Some bad luck last year again, like a 22% K minus walk for Gray last year, but not a great fastball. He's getting old, really reliant on those breakers and stuff. It's fine, but nothing I'm going out of my way to get. Rasmussen, same story, like probably 170 innings is what you're looking for. He typically just goes 5. They don't really let him go through the order a third time. So downgrading quality starts leagues, but how can you not like the ratios, right? I mean, look at Drew Rasmussen's ERA's last 5 years. It's on the screen, but I'll read it. 2.84 in 76 innings in 2021, 2.84 in 146 innings in 2022. 2023 and 2024, he threw hardly any innings, 44 in 2023 with a 2.62 ERA, had Tommy John. Comes back for a bit in 2024, 28 innings, 2.83 ERA. His second Tommy John, by the way, 2025, 150 innings, made 31 starts. So there you go, exactly, not exactly, but about 5 innings per start, 31 starts, 150 innings, 2.76 ERA, 1.02 whip, 22% K percent though. So not a K rate guy. You don't love him in a K per 9 league. You don't love him in a quality starts league. But if you're just talking about, I want 160 innings of really good ratios, like Rasmussen's a steal, but you got to pay attention to your league settings with him. And let's cut it there. We'll do part 1. We'll go a little bit more quickly through the names next episode, but this will be called like the last second cram starting pitcher part 1 or something like that, only a podcast. But so hope that helps. Back later with another episode. Goodbye.